That was the exact time my mom went over and pounded on their door. Word on the street was she was nearly beaten to death. Where she went after being discharged, I honestly couldn't recall. And then was the blind date where I ran into her again. I remembered it vividly. The Lyra who showed up at that blind date captivated my entire being from the second she appeared. Her features were exquisite, coldly beautiful. Even though her makeup with the sharp, angled eyeliner made her look a bit unapproachable, those doe eyes, the moment they locked onto me, filled with warmth and absolute purity. Me, an innocent youth as blank as a sheet of white paper, instantly felt my heart do backflips. Not to mention the way she softly, gently called out my name. At the time, my memory of Lyra was pretty hazy, but clearly she was a master of socializing. She casually brought up a few childhood memories, instantly bridging the gap between us, and making me drop every single one of my defenses. So, when her face turned pale, and she mentioned her time of the month had arrived early, and that her apartment was just around the corner, and asked if it would be entirely inconvenient for me to escort her home, I hesitated for barely a second, especially since I had already seen the chat logs she had with my mom. At the time, I had absolutely no idea she came fully prepared to trap me. The very second after I chugged the special spiked water, right before I blacked out, I received a text from my mom. That girl got grazed by a car after work. She can't make it today. Let's reschedule. Good news. At least I knew I was being played. Bad news. It was way too late. It wasn't until I woke up the next day and realized my life was officially over that I understood. Lyra had probably been scammed by whoever sold her those knockoff drugs. Then, she sat silently by the edge of the bed, reached out and caressed my face. Suddenly, she smiled, picked up the fruit knife on the nightstand, and, without a moment of hesitation, now whenever I think about the fact that when we were discovered in my past life, we were probably glued together in our birthday suits, and made it onto the local evening news, I get so incredibly pissed. At least put some clothes on me, for crying out loud! Suddenly, I heard the soft thud of something being placed gently on my desk. My tone was a bit grumpy. What are you doing? Lyra's eyes widened slightly as she placed a red bean slushie onto my desk. I just bought this for you. I finally noticed that her forehead and neck were slick with sweat. Her face was flushed red. The red bean slushie she was holding was the school cafeteria's ultimate summer limited edition. You had to line up forever for it, and it cost a whopping $3 a cup. As far as I knew, my mom only gave us a measly $5 a week for allowance. It was already Thursday. My funds had dried up days ago. Yet Lyra had bought this for me. Lyra nudged the red bean slushie slightly closer to me, her voice soft and glutinous. I was wrong. I shouldn't have disturbed your nap. Man, I'm such a piece of garbage. I let out a sigh, grabbed the straw, poked it through the lid, and handed it back to her. Drink. Lyra froze for a second. Whispering, she said, This is for you. She couldn't even bear to buy this for herself. Hurry up, before everyone stares. I frowned, looking at her. Honestly, I wanted to just give the whole thing to her. Lyra stared at the straw positioned right at her lips. She shot a cautious glance at me. Even though I looked fierce on the outside, she knew I wasn't actually mad at all. Lyra blinked. She took a tiny, cautious sip of the red bean slushie. Then, breaking into a smile, she said, It's very good. I looked at the adorable shy Lyra and felt even more depressed. Do you want more? Here. Saying that, I pushed the slushie toward her again, but a flash of sadness crossed her face. Looking flustered, she stammered, I'm sorry. Is it because I drank from it? Do you think I'm dirty? I maintained a completely deadpan expression, pulled the slushie back, and took a massive slurp from the straw. With an annoyed tone, I grumbled, Enough already. Sit down and behave. Seeing that I didn't find her dirty at all for drinking from the same straw, Lyra's heart exploded with excitement. Even more excited than the time she had fantasies of stabbing Vance. Kaylin is just too good. If only he could treat her this well for the rest of their lives. She would treat him so incredibly well too. No one is allowed to bully Kaylin, and absolutely no one is allowed to steal him away. School had been in session for almost 2 months now. I kept feeling like something was off. On the bus ride home at noon, I asked Lyra, Has your dad ever not come home for this long? It had been almost 2 solid months, and I hadn't seen a single trace of Vance. Just last night, I heard my parents whispering that it was super weird. I don't know, Lyra replied quietly. He disappeared for 3 months once before. As she spoke, her hand subconsciously began twisting the straps of her backpack. I instantly felt a pang of regret. I shouldn't have asked Lyra so directly. To her, Vance was a living nightmare. I reached out and placed my hand over hers to stop her anxious twisting. It's fine. If he comes back, I'll just secretly hide you. Hearing this, Lyra froze. Hide her? Shouldn't the normal reaction be to ignore her and tell her to go home? Everyone in the complex was terrified of Vance. When he went crazy, he was capable of taking a dump right on someone's front porch. Lyra genuinely believed Vance couldn't even be classified as a human being anymore. He was an animal, and animals belonged in the slaughterhouse. Thinking of this, her gaze turned icy, faintly harboring murderous intent. But the hand holding hers was so warm. The boy's voice was warm too. Sigh. Actually, we need to solve the problem from the root. I just haven't figured out a foolproof plan yet. For now, let's just avoid him. You can't afford to get hurt again. However, the second we got home, we found out exactly why Vance hadn't returned. Standing in front of Lyra's door was a woman. a very pretty woman. The woman looked at Lyra and called out, "Baby," but Lyra's face was completely devoid of emotion. Instinctively, she even shrank behind me. I, too, instinctively raised an arm to shield her. The woman's face turned pale, flashing with embarrassment. Her gaze shifted to me. "You must be Kaylin, right? Do you remember me? I'm Lyra's mother, Auntie Selena." I thought to myself, who the heck remembers you? But I still politely called out, "Auntie Selena." Selena breathed a sigh of relief. She turned back to Lyra. "Lyra, Mommy has something she wants to talk to you about." Just then, my mom, who had just finished work, came up the stairs carrying groceries. "Lyra, Kaylin, why are you guys standing in the hallway? Go inside. There's watermelon in the fridge." Then, her voice abruptly stopped. In a shocked tone, she gasped, "Selena, you came back?" Eventually, all four of us ended up inside our apartment. From start to finish, Lyra didn't speak a single syllable to Selena. When Selena tried to reach out and hold her hand, Lyra dodged it completely. Selena was so mortified she looked like she didn't know what to do with her hands and feet. My mom, on the other hand, just sighed. "Kaylin, take Lyra into your room to do homework. Take the watermelon with you." After going inside, I intentionally left the door cracked open. I pressed my ear against the wood, eavesdropping like a pro. Just as I was focusing all my energy on listening, a tiny, breathy voice sounded right next to my ear. "Are you that desperate to hear what they're saying?" I violently flinched, screaming, "Holy macaroni!" Internally, I nearly suffered a heart attack. I reached out and pinched Lyra's soft, chubby cheeks. "Try scaring me like that again. See what happens." Lyra didn't try to dodge. Mumbling through pinched cheeks, she said, "Sorry." I looked at those innocent doe eyes and felt my anger instantly deflate. I sighed. "Why don't you want to know what your mom is saying? What's the point of knowing?" Lyra's tone was incredibly flat. "She doesn't want me anyway. Over a year ago, after Selena left, she hadn't returned a single time. She knew exactly what kind of monster Vance was. She also knew exactly what kind of torture Lyra might be subjected to. Yet she still hardened her heart and abandoned her daughter in that hellhole. Now, watching her so casually say, 'She doesn't want me anyway,' I couldn't help but interject. 'How do you know if you don't try? Maybe she came back this time to take you away.' But Lyra replied with utmost seriousness, 'Brother, I went looking for her before. She found herself a very rich boyfriend. But when she saw me back then, she looked like she had seen a ghost. Probably didn't expect me to still be breathing. That man saw me too. He looked a bit surprised, because the kid was covered in bruises. And then she told that man, 'Don't bother with this kind of trash, it's probably a scam,' and then she dragged him away." The story Lyra told was simple, but my grip on my pencil tightened to the point of breaking. How utterly devastated must she have been in that moment? How much courage did it take for her to go searching for her own mother? Yet reality delivered a blow that probably hurt 1,000 times more than Vance's beatings. "Nobody is ever going to want me," Lyra whispered. Her long eyelashes hid the storm of emotions in her eyes. "She won't want me this time." "Either. Bullcrap. My mom and dad love you. They wish you were their actual biological daughter." I reached out, my heart aching as I patted her head. "You're just a kid. Don't be so pessimistic. It's just that you're a slightly unlucky kid, you know? You ate up a lifetime's worth of suffering from others before you even hit 8. So from now on, it's going to be smooth sailing and happiness for you. Everything will get better, okay?" Hearing this, Lyra lifted her head to look at me. Her eyes were sparkling. "Really?" I nodded firmly. "Really? Then brother won't ever abandon me, right?" She pushed further in a tiny voice. Reaching out her small hand, she gently grabbed the hem of my shirt. I felt like something about this conversation was veering into slightly dangerous territory, but looking at her, looking like she was about to burst into tears at any second, I still nodded. "Relax, I got you. Honestly, I didn't get it. If I had a daughter this beautiful and well-behaved, how could I ever bear to part with her? Yep, her family is a literal circus of psychos." Lyra, on the other hand, in a blind spot where I couldn't see, gently hooked the corners of her mouth into a smirk. "See? People with kind hearts are so incredibly easy to fool." She thought to herself, "I will absolutely guarantee that Kaylin never gets fooled by anyone else, other than me." Meanwhile, I was thinking, the more I understood Lyra, the more I comprehended why she morphed into that monster in my past life. It was a miracle she even survived to adulthood, let alone growing up without turning twisted. In this life, I'm going to work my absolute hardest to raise her into an upstanding, socialist-loving citizen. She's so smart. She'll definitely be able to contribute to society in the future. By the time Lyra and I were released from my room, Selena had vanished. My mom held Lyra's hand, her eyes brimming with heartache. "Lyra, Auntie needs to tell you something. Your dad committed manslaughter. He's probably going away for a few years." Hearing this, Lyra nodded, her face completely void of emotion. "Logically speaking, you should go live with your mother, but your mom might find it a bit inconvenient. From now on, how about you live with Auntie Evelyn, Uncle Arthur, and Kaylin?" My mom's face was etched with helplessness. Just moments ago, Selena had literally dropped to her knees, begging, saying she was about to get married, and her fiancé had no idea she had a daughter. She claimed her hands were tied. At the time, my mom's expression was frosty, but Selena probably noticed my mom's soft heart. She threatened that if Evelyn wasn't willing to take her, she'd just go knock on the doors of the other neighbors in the complex. My mom thought of the sweet, well-behaved Lyra. Leave her with the neighbors? Absolutely not. She couldn't trust them. Lyra, your mom didn't abandon you. She left a bank card. She'll deposit money every month from now on. If you ever miss her, Auntie will help you contact her. Before my mom could even finish her sentence, she heard Lyra say softly, Auntie, I want to stay. I'll give you all that money. All I want is to go to school and have a bite to eat. I'll be super good and I won't cause you any trouble. She reached out and gently tugged on the edge of my mom's shirt. Auntie, please don't throw me away. And right then and there I watched my mom burst into tears. Well, great. The little future psycho is officially my live-in sister now. But honestly, I was a little bit thrilled. I hoped Vance would rot in there forever. That way, this time around, Lyra could finally grow up healthy and safe, right? And just like that, Lyra moved into our house permanently. As for how many years Vance was actually going to get, nobody really knew. Selena was vague about the details. My mom even speculated that Selena didn't want to deal with Lyra at all, but was terrified of being reported for child abandonment. She even muttered something about how Lyra's life force was as stubborn as Vance's. How did such a tiny kid manage to survive all that? My mom's hushed voice drifted from the bedroom, laced with pure fury. Standing by the door, I felt the exact same fury. In their original home, nobody wanted Lyra to live, not even her own parents. A suffocating sense of rage and powerlessness washed over me. All of Lyra's hyper-cautious, walking on eggshells behavior in our house now had a horrifyingly clear origin story. I turned around and tiptoed back to my room. The second I walked in, I saw a figure sitting on the padded mat on the floor. My heart screamed, Holy Mother of Pearl, and I almost cursed out loud. But the tiny silhouette suddenly turned its head and whispered, Brother. I exhaled a massive breath, walked over, keeping my voice low. Didn't you go to sleep? I had a nightmare. Woke up and realized you weren't here. The little girl's voice was tiny, laced with a tearful tremor. She reached out and, out of pure habit, gripped the hem of my pajama shirt. Through the dim light, I caught a glimpse of the moisture glistening in her eyes. Did she wake up crying? Thinking back to the horrific things I had just overheard, I let out a sigh, reached out and held her tiny hand. Why are you sitting on the floor? Get up and go to sleep. I just went out to grab some water. Lyra followed my pull and stood up, but she made absolutely no move to climb into the bed. She just stood frozen in place. I looked at her, hesitating for a moment. Are you scared to sleep at zone? I won't leave the room again. Can I make a pallet on the floor? I just want to be a little closer to you. Lyra's voice was barely a whisper, trembling slightly. I'm scared to lie up there alone. It's too far away from you. It was a good thing the lights were off. Otherwise, I would have seen the sheer, unadulterated excitement in her eyes that she couldn't even bother to hide. She did, in fact, have a dream just now. But it was a dream where she took a knife and ended Vance's life. When she woke up, the thrill and adrenaline made her entire body tremble. Her eyes were literally shining. She had climbed out of bed the second she heard my footsteps. She knew I was a total softie, especially knowing exactly how Selena treated her. Lyra detested being pitied, but if the person pitying her was Kaylin, that was a completely different story. I stood facing her in pitch-black silence. Neither of us said a word. Only the sound of our breathing filled the room. Finally, I shifted over, making a little room. Just for tonight. Get up here! Lyra broke into a massive grin and scrambled up the bed with lightning speed, only daring to claim a microscopic sliver of space. Brother, I don't thrash around when I sleep. I thought to myself, yeah, I know that, but I do thrash around. I lay side by side with Lyra, staring into the darkness. Suddenly, I said, let me tell you a bedtime story. Okay, brother. Once upon a time, there was an old man. He had 12 sons. Their names were prosperity, democracy, civility, harmony. Brother, these are the core socialist values, aren't they? A hesitant, timid voice interrupted. Zip it! I felt a wave of embarrassment and annoyance. How the heck does an 8-year-old already know this stuff? Then you recite it once. From now on, you have to recite it every single night. Oh, the core socialist values are. Eventually, I drifted off to sleep again. Ah, the perks of youth. Head hits the pillow out like a light. Seeing that I was completely dead to the world, Lyra slowly turned her head to look at me. She could only make out the blurry silhouette of my side profile. She smiled and slowly inched closer to me. Only when I instinctively rolled over and pulled her into my arms did she satisfyingly close her eyes. I was a bit heavy, but Lyra felt unbelievably safe. It was a sense of security she hadn't felt since she was 5 years old. After that night, I finally convinced myself to fully accept Lyra and vowed to raise her right. I mean, she hasn't turned into a psycho yet, right? I don't want to die, and I don't want Lyra to go down with me either. The final verdict on Vance's case came down: manslaughter, sentenced to 7 years in prison, which meant, for the next 7 years, Lyra was completely safe. A while later, I developed a new, incredibly annoying problem. Why the heck does my roommate have so many nightmares? 2 or 3 times a week, standing pitifully by my bed reciting the core socialist values like a chanting monk. Seriously, Lyra, if you have one more nightmare, I'm calling my mom in to sleep with you. I glared at Lyra, who was standing by the bed. My tone was anything but friendly. Lyra blinked. Her eyelashes curled perfectly. Her eyes were clear and she looked the picture of innocence. But I was completely immune now. Every time she climbed into my bed, she was an angel. But the next morning,